You should never, ever publicly admit that.
Well, it's not like the hat. So here's the thing. The hat came with a program I bought. And the
Oh,
program, what was the hardest thing you've ever overcome and what did you learn? And people can't really fake that because you'll know if they go deep, they've actually learned something. If they keep it at a surface level, they didn't actually learn anything and they're just telling you they have a problem that they never resolved. And now you know that they really don't have good problem solving capabilities. All right, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the 1% Podcast. I am your host, Vin, and
I'm Shane.
that's babyface Shane for you all today. Notice the silky smooth face. Shane, what is it like for those of you that are not watching? And if you never watched, Shane has a beard. And usually he looks like a grown man. He shaved his beard. Today, it was the weirdest thing ever seeing him. He surprised me because he looks like his son. You know how people say their kids look like them? No. He looks like his kid. The kid came first. He came second, clearly.
That's how it works.
Yes. Shane, what is it like being bald on your face and having skin that's now as smooth as velvet and peanut butter?
Well, I shaved 2 nights ago, actually. So it is definitely not smooth anymore. I'll tell you that right now. It is very stubbly. I actually have a beard that is almost the same thickness as Vin's right now, just, a thin stubble. But I haven't shaved in probably around 5 years, definitely before my kids were born. And I saw a social media video, Facebook, Instagram, whatever it was, about a guy shaving his face and then showing his kids, and his kids freaked out. So told my wife, I'm like, you got to record this. I'm doing. She's like, no, don't shave. You don't look good without facial hair on. I don't like it. Mind you, my wife is 7 years older than me, so she just doesn't like being with a young, boyish looking, very handsome, valiant
Man,
Steve.
she's gonna kick your ass. You just told the whole world she's 7 years older than you.
But she is. I mean, that's just the truth.
It's not that there's a problem. There's not a problem with that, but there's she like every other woman safeguards her age. I'm sure that's what women do.
She doesn't care. And I will add though that we started dating when I was 23, so she was 30 already. So she likes the cradle rocking, but at a legal limit. So let's keep that. Anyways,
I had a difference like that at one time.
Yeah, I've always liked the older ladies. Now that one, she might get mad at. Anyways, so I decided to shave my face, not only trim, so I trimmed off everything. And then I shaved my face, which, once again, I haven't done in a very long time. And my face was white, it was pale. Thankfully, the last 2 days, I've actually gotten some sun, so it's starting to blend together, at least decently, in my opinion. But it was white. Imagine just tan up here and white as, snow down there in the bottom. It definitely looked like two-tone shade.
Man, looked like transparent milk.
So I came and my son was sitting on the couch and my wife was recording. He wouldn't even look at me, guys. No crying, no nothing like that. He kind of glanced over here and thought I was a stranger. My wife's like, that's Dada. Look at him. And he just wouldn't even bother turning to this side anymore. Just straight face, pointing this way, just doing this. And then my daughter is sitting probably 10 feet parallel to me, but sitting on the carpet. And she's almost 11 months old. And she had the funniest face. I'm going to send Vin the recording later. But it was just one of these smoldering eyebrow looks who the heck is in my house and why does he kind of look like Dad? Don't know if I want to crawl over there. It's funny. It was worth it. But I've been getting these comments for the past 2 days from family, friends, everybody. Why, Shane? Never do it again. You're too fat for a clean shaven face. I get it all. I get it all there.
Wow, we didn't say... Damn, the disrespect. You need to do what the kids are saying. You need to just turn around and be like, you didn't have to say all of that. But
those comments were from very, very close, immediate friends. But, that it goes both ways.
I get it. So, what's really funny, though, is having almost a flashback here of when You were saying how your son was kind of side eyeing you and wouldn't turn his head. You know what's really hilarious? How old's your son?
He is 3.5. He'll be 4 in July.
Okay, so here's something great. Ready? My mom's gonna hate me, but this is hilarious. And she won't hate me. She'll just be annoyed, but it's okay. Actually, I don't even think she watches this, so it's fine. But when I got my nose piercing, I used to have a nose ring, and she acted just like your son. She would turn her head. She wouldn't look at me. If she looked at me, it had to be on the side that didn't have the nose ring. And I'm like, now I'm laughing at about this because Shane, you've just proven an excellent point. My mom had the emotional capacity of a 3.5-year-old at that point in my life.
So I can kind of see that, like, my poor baby. I think times have changed, but I don't know how I'll feel if my son or daughter gets their tattoos. And just like you, like, I'm covered in tattoos. I love them. I love the body art, but it's like if my daughter gets a tattoo, especially if it's something stupid, I'm be like, oh God, why? Why? I'm assuming that's why your mom was there. It took her some time to kind of adapt and be like, okay, he's still my son. I still love him, even though he looks like a bull. Like, that's fine.
It wasn't that kind of nose piercing, you weirdo. It was a simple ring on one nostril.
That's
It
kind
was
of, it was like
very
an emo, like gothish, probably emo, right? Stage.
yeah, it was yeah, it's that thing where you yell at your mom and you're like, it's not a phase, but it actually was. Yeah, surprisingly. But
Yeah.
that's what you do every now and then. You go get a few piercings, you wear a beanie, and you dress in black. Now, I will say, the black thing stuck.
I was just about to say
Everything
it.
else is everything else is relatively gone.
Don't worry, guys. I'm working on phasing him out of the black. Look at the hat. Look at the hat. We're making progress here, guys.
First up, this is a very special hat. I got it. This was like a $900 hat. Okay.
Oh my God. You should never, ever publicly admit that.
Well, it's not like the hat. So here's the thing. The hat came with a program I bought, and the
Oh, okay.
program was
Oh,
like
thank
$900.
you.
But I
Okay.
never used the program. I just wanted the hat.
Wow. You
Kidding.
spend your
Kidding.
money way too frivolously.
Kidding.
Oh,
Kidding.
thank God. All right.
Or am I? Anyway,
Anyways, the nose
so
ring makes sense.
Shane's got this great quote over there, and it's funny because it could actually go both ways. And usually we elect sometimes to read the quote or not, but this quote here is pretty funny because it says, "If at first you don't succeed, try coaching." That's what it says, right?
That's what it says.
So it's funny because I had to ask, and we actually don't know what the interpretation is, but there's two ways to look at it. Is one, if you failed your endeavor and you sucked at business, or you just didn't make it as an entrepreneur, you could try coaching. Try coaching other people. Or the way that I think really makes sense, which is if you don't succeed, try to get a coach, someone who can help steer you in the right direction. God willing, and hopefully it's the latter. But I feel like in today's society, some people think it's the first one.
There's a lot of false advertisement out there. I actually, this is a runoff of Stephen Hawking's famous quote: "If at first you don't succeed, try management." um, so I just wanted to do the coaching. I thought it was funny, and it's relevant because of all the terrible coaches who go out there who have accomplished nothing, and they try to teach you how to run your organization, your business, your life, whatever it may be. And that goes with all types of coach: life coach, business coach, love coach. It's just, it's endless. And I think it's truly ridiculous.
you know,
But
there's something to be said about that too, because I think it is important to understand your lane, right? Like I saw the other day somebody put up a message and he's like, I'm looking for a really good business coach, DM me. And I decided not to answer it. And it's not because I don't know business, but it's because it's like, if you're specifically saying a business coach, I wouldn't consider myself that. Can I consult and help you with your business? 100%. Can I help with systems and processes and like building out blueprints and roadmaps? I could do all of that. But if you ask me at the end of the day, what am I? I would tell you I'm a mental performance coach. I have capabilities to do consulting. I would tell you I have capabilities to mentor and do therapy, but it's really, like, if you're saying, hey, I just want strictly a business coach, I would never apply for that. And I think there has to be a level of honesty when you're looking at, like, what are your capabilities? What are you good at? What do you really love doing? And what is it that you should or should not do? By the way, this isn't what the podcast is about. Shane and I are just tangenting a little. Today's podcast topic will be displayed in a minute, but I want to let Shane just jump in on that.
Well, I think it just kind of speaks colors for who you are. This is kind of what I've been preaching a long time as far as not being financially driven and being success driven. You know, if you ever have talked to me or asked for advice, it's, you know, be the best at one thing, and whoever your competition is, be better than that, but utilize what they're currently doing and make it better. That's the American way. That's really what I preach a lot. And I think, you know, the fact that Vin didn't get a client, even though he probably could have helped that person and is a portion of business coaching, he chose not to because that's not his most comfortable realm, nor does he want to focus his time, energy, and money on that. I just think that's fun. I think that's perfect. I think that's, you know, not being financially driven, it's success driven, and wanting to grow your personal self into, you know, what you know you can excel at.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a little of stay in whatever lane you believe you're in, unless you want to venture into that realm. I know enough about business that I could probably consider myself a business coach. However, I really do want to keep it to, like, this is what I really know. And then if you need me to help with that stuff, I can. But if you're looking for just somebody who does that, that's not me. So anyway, guys, we are definitely off topic, but we didn't even tell you the topic. So it's okay. Today's topic is going to be one that's something that's actually really, really important. I don't know about Shane, but I've had a lot of clients talk to me about this specific issue, which is why I think today is a great opportunity to go into it. Now, Shane maybe thinks I don't have the expertise here, but let me tell you, I definitely do. So
He says that
today,
because of what I mentioned prior to this, by the way. There's no like attacks on this. He just got a little butthurt about the things that I mentioned.
listen, preparation H isn't even helping me right now, but
That's still
I'll
good
tell
on the
you,
whole.
nice cooling sensation, just not very therapeutic. But today's topic is it's around hiring, firing, and interviewing. So many times this is partially why I have a job in some opportunities, because people will hire the wrong people and then they'll invest in coaching them, not realizing it's really just because they didn't hire a good fit for their company, their culture. And then I get these questions of, okay, now we had to fire that person, or, you know, we need to remove this person and put them somewhere else. But how do we make sure we don't mess this up again? How do we make sure we get a good quality employee, a good quality team member? What does that look like? Now, I will talk on more of the psychological sides of this. We've done a little bit of hiring and firing at the laundromat I own, but more so what I do is I advise business leaders how they can pick the right people and how and when they should fire people. So I'll let Shane go, because I will say Shane definitely has more experience on this front than me. So I want Shane to go first, and I will follow up with something that's going to be better that he doesn't mention. But go ahead, Shane.
What a one-upper, this guy. I'm just going to start talking for 40 minutes and just let the whole thing just end on here. I think it's only fair to break this down into segments and really give each segment a true, fair point of what it is. The very first thing that I want to put, and this is just what really works for me, especially because today's day, there's so many applicants, and you really have to weed through the crap to find the diamond in the rough, which it hasn't always been that. It's always been, you know, actually not always, but for a couple of years ago, it was hard to find applicants. In this day and age, you will get, specific because we just posted something for a new rep, 300 applicants in 24 hours applying for something. So I just want to set those proper expectations on this is what I'm specifically talking about. Now, on a job posting, what I specifically post are instructions. So what I want from specifically a sales candidate video is I don't want to look at a resume. That's what the 99% of people want, is they want a resume. What I want is I want you to follow directions, and in the directions it's going to say, hi, I want you to do this, 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 and this before sending me your resume. And if they don't follow those exact steps, we don't even bother responding. So those exact same things is pretty much an outline of a video. For example, I'll give you my juices here. I want them to think of something weird. So, for instance, for my video that I have them do, is I want them to create a video showing themselves within anywhere from 2 to 5 minutes long. And I want them to tell me their favorite pizza. And then I want them to sell me that pizza. That's as very loose and open as it can be. So it can literally be, I like cheese pizza because it has cheese on it. Okay, we're not going with that person. Or they can be as descriptive. Maybe they're treating me as a customer. This is what I want. I want them to think outside the box. I want to see how comfortable they are being put into a random situation because that's how really sales is going to be. And then we skim through those videos. We watch it to see if we're something interested in that. Then we'll take a look at their resume, take a look at their background, because that's truly the time you should look at resumes, is if they're already somewhat of what your expectations are. Then at this point, they talk to our interviewing manager. If they pass that, they go to our panel interview, which is with my sales director and a couple other people. And if they pass that, it's a very situational interview with just me and that person. So that is my process for interviewing. I feel that we are very, very different. We make them actually work for it outside of just doing 7 pages of tests and personality tests and anything like that. I think all of that stuff can be afterwards. But I personally like doing the things that we do this because we get very good results.
Give it up for Shane, everybody. Please clap it up. Thank you, Shane. This is very insightful and intriguing into the mind and the heart and soul of the VA group and the hiring process. Here's something that's really interesting that I've come to learn. Astronauts. For all of you listeners out there, and for you right here, Babyface Shane, would we and could we agree that astronauts are probably some of the highest performing, highly qualified humans on this planet?
Mentally, is that where you're getting at? Or
yeah. Yes. Okay. Perfect. But one of the biggest things that really has to happen with astronauts is not only do they need to be high performing, highly powerful people, they also need to be highly emotionally intelligent. They need to be highly coachable, and they have to have extremely meldable personalities for it to work. Because for anyone who lives at home with a wife or a husband, you know that you're going to fight with them. And why are you going to fight with them? Because of the fact that you spend so much damn time together. Well, think about it like this as an astronaut. Not only would you spend probably 20 times the amount of time with your coworker than you would your own husband or wife, but you can't even get a break by going anywhere else because you're in the same damn pod. So there's been a lot of research on finding what is the best way to interview people. And there's these really interesting studies that they went through. I got this information from this great book. It's called Super Communicators. It really teaches you how to learn how to connect with people. And why this was such a cool book is they talk specifically about the research and what went into hiring astronauts. And they found that there were some astronauts that were highly uncoachable, that would create fights with their coworkers, that would essentially break down and have these mental breakdowns while still locked in the space shuttle for months. And they answered the questions the exact same way. Like both the highly coachable, highly empathetic, highly emotionally intelligent, highly malleable person, and the other one who was going to break down, crash and burn, and never be able to consistently stay at that level of performance. They interviewed the same. They answered the questions the same. They had the same responses, the same answers. The guy that was trying to figure out what led to these differences, or what was the tell in the interview so that they knew how to hire these better astronauts, he found one thing from watching these videos hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times. And it's the slightest thing that you'd probably never expect. It was in the way they left. If you have somebody that has high EQ and high desire to connect with you, high desire to be a team player, what winds up happening is they're very good at mirroring emotions. So why the tell was in the laugh was because if the interviewer told a joke or he did something or said something that would cause for a funny moment, and let's just say the interviewer erupted in a good laugh, a chuckle, or a full belly laugh, the person on the other side that isn't that willing to connect and be open emotionally, or have that higher level of emotional intelligence, would not mirror the emotion. They might, while this person's in a full belly laugh, they might just sit there and smile and like kind of nod like, oh, awkwardly, or give a little chuckle, but they weren't actually bought into the emotion. So you see, psychologically, when you have these people who have these hard desires to be connected and be a part of a team, or just have that EQ, they will actually mirror your emotions. So what they started doing was they started testing this in other ways, where they, in these interviewing processes, would lean in and they would get a little bit quieter, and they'd see, does the person match the tone and shrink their stature. They would do other things too, like where they'd sit up outright and talk a little bit louder. And so they were now intentionally leading these interviewees through all different types of reactivity, types of, I guess you could say, exercises in the interviewing processes. And then one other piece was that you could actually find out a lot, not just by looking at people's resumes, but by asking them, hey, tell me your life story. Tell me the hardest thing you've ever overcome and what you've learned from it. Because people can really easily sit behind accolades, because accolades are easy to achieve, whether you think that or not, right? Like anybody could kind of go to college and finish it if they really, really want to. But then there's a question of, what was the hardest thing you've ever overcome and what did you learn? And people can't really fake that, because you'll know if they go deep, they've actually learned something. If they keep it at a surface level, they didn't actually learn anything, and they're just telling you they have a problem that they never resolved. And now you know that they really don't have good problem solving capabilities. So when I talk about interviewing, I actually tell people, go on the side and see how they respond, which is the emotional parts. Go and see how they respond to your laugh, or how they respond to a lean in, or your switching in tones, or how they respond to the personal questions, because those will always be more important. And this is a lot of, I guess, the better, in my opinion, the better research of what makes for an effective hire, or why you should maybe not allow somebody on your team. So that's what I've come to learn, and that's now what I teach. I like Shane's process too, though. That's a pretty decent process.
I golf clapped for those of you that are not watching visually, just like Big golf clap for me.
It wasn't a
Well,
golf clap. It was a pretentious, like, very good snooty clap.
oh, it was pretentious. Yes. No, I really did like the information that you said. I'm more inclined to actually try that in regards to just kind of showing a little bit more personality, see what they do. Because I agree with you, especially when it comes to sales, you need somebody with someone full charisma, somebody with wit, somebody who understands you, who you think is going to be a good team member outside of just good with sales. So there's definitely a lot of merit to what you said. I haven't gone to that extremity of details of kind of outlining that in the interview process, but it's something that I should add on there to see, how good they are. It's just something you don't think about.
Yeah, it's really fascinating. I mean, and you think of it, why this really, first up, this grabbed my attention because I'm a nerd for stats and research. Like, if you could show some sort of good data supporting something like this, I could really get behind it, right? But
Mm-hmm.
then the other part wasn't just everyday average people. We're talking about the highest performing people on this planet. Like,
Right,
I would say that an astronaut is higher performing than any of these athletes or anybody else in any other position, because first up, the amount of training that you go through, the
right.
isolation, like the
Yeah.
mindset to go through months or years of isolation,
That
crazy.
that's what I meant mentally. Like it's
Yeah.
just to get there. It's a different level.
Yeah.
100%.
So that's what was the most fascinating about it. I think anybody could research anything on a 9 to 5 person, but you're finding commonalities between astronauts. Like, I'm bought. So that's one thing. Now let's jump into the other half of this topic before we wrap here, because we got a few minutes left. It's good and important to know how to hire. Why or when should we fire? This is another important question I get asked a lot. Shane, what are your interpretations? What do you go through when you're determining how to hire or fire people? Fire people.
So I think this is different based on the position, and I don't want to give the common answer outside of ethics and things like that. But I just recently had to let one of my sales reps go because poor performance was really one of them. However, it's just he wouldn't go the extra mile. And I felt for what I was compensating and what I value that position at, I want somebody to give 110% like my other team members do. And I just don't feel that that person was. So I personally can tell within the first 90 days if this person is going to work out or not. Now, this person was with me for about 6 months. I personally think that there is amazing interviewees. And then when it comes to work ethic, it's kind of hard. You really just have to be thrown out there. I'm going to give some tips and tricks for terminating somebody, as I've definitely have terminated my fair share of people. The best way of doing it is you always have to have somebody else in there, whether it's an HR or a manager or somebody there to be a third party. You always have to record the situation in case anything happens. You always have to, and this is doing everything by the book. So if you don't know how to do it, this is exactly how it has to be done. Now, mine was a contractor, so you have to make sure to send out the proper agreements. You have to make sure that once all those agreements are signed, that you get everything that that person had over, and you also need to make sure to send them a termination agreement. So essentially, that if you say anything ill, if you still have information, if you use the company or anything in jeopardy, that we will essentially go after you. So that also needs to be sent. It needs to be signed. Then you need to release final pay. Now, tips on terminating employees. You need to be brief. You need to be straight to the point on exactly why you are terminating this person, so it is very clear, and answer any questions. That's very, very it. There shouldn't be a lot of sympathy and emotion towards this. You're letting somebody go. And this somebody is probably, this is their, main or second source of income to support themselves or their family. So it's hard to hear. So being short, quick, concise, to the point on why this is happening needs to happen. All my terminations outside of questions are usually 45 seconds.
Nice. So I think there's always very interesting perspectives about firing people. Typically, what I wind up doing is, well, I guess I try to see where maybe I or some other leadership has fallen short. So what I mean by that is I always tell people you can't rightfully fire someone unless you've taken full responsibility over them not being the proper fit. And what I mean by that is if you've determined that they are actually the proper fit within the company, and that's why you hired them in the first place, not like a hire this person and see if it works out, more as if you think this person is actually qualified and capable to do the job. However, maybe you neglected to train them, maybe you neglected to teach them, maybe you neglected to give them proper resources, maybe they didn't have the proper SOPs, whatever the case is. There's a whole laundry list as a leader that I believe you need to check off before you fire someone. And why I say take full responsibility is because a lot of the times, not always, but it is a lot of the times that employees are not really set up for success. Because an employee is somebody that needs a playbook. You see, the entrepreneur and the business leader oftentimes get annoyed with employees because they're like, well, this guy needs to be more creative and they need to do this and they need to do that. And it's like, well, hey, do you think that maybe if they had that creative entrepreneurial mindset, they probably wouldn't work for you? The average 9 to 5 employee is a 9 to 5 employee because they want a playbook, they want the security, they don't want to do all of that extra hard work. That's why they become a 9 to 5 employee. Because if they were going to do all of that, they probably would just go start their own business. So that's why I always say, did you give them the resources? Did you give them the trainings? Did you go through your checklist? Because if you went through your checklist and that employee still does not perform, that means that now it is on them, and now you are well within your rights to start the termination process. But until you could tell me or tell anybody that you've gone through that checklist, it's your fault that they're not performing. And so it's not to, put any type of, oh, let's absolve this employee of responsibility, right? It's just making sure that they have the proper things. And to be fair too, sometimes CEOs will get confused by that mentality because they're like, well, I'm the CEO. I'm managing the whole business. I don't have time to do that. It's like, fine. What about your C-suite? What about their director? What about their direct superior? Like, are these people providing what they need before you're determining that this person should be fired? Because somebody needs to be overseeing this guy and somebody needs to have the responsibility to say, maybe he didn't get what he needed to succeed. And if you can't say that without a shadow of a doubt, you need to keep that employee and see if you could do better. That's my opinion on it. And that's usually what I teach, because I've had a lot of conversations with leaders and clients that I've worked with around termination. And I always throw it back to them. It's like, you're ready to terminate this person, but did you get them X, Y, and Z? And then we'll make a commitment in that session, for instance, or in that phone call of, let's get this person this, or let's have this conversation with them around this. And if that doesn't resolve it, then yeah, let's commit to the fact that they're gone because you've put in the efforts. So that's typically where I see the firing process taking place, is like really vetting out if that makes sense.
I want to stand by. There's a lot of same thing here. There's a lot of false advertisement out there. There's a lot of great people that know how to interview. I think what's a real rare commodity nowadays is work ethic, especially people who are going to work from home, which is very popular right now. There's a lot of work at home positions. Hiring a 9 to 5, a contractor, an employee, and having them to be just as motivated and have such a strong work ethic as the C-suite, as the owner, as the whatever it may be, is very, very difficult to find. So I agree with what's Vin's saying. I think that's step one, is you have to have the material to give them, and if you don't, then you have to learn from this and you have to get better. Otherwise, you're going to repeat the same cycle. Yeah. However, on the flip side, if work ethic is a very big one, and I know it's tough sometimes, because trust me, I've been through employment that just doesn't work out, specifically on the sales side, because of that exact reason. So I think sometimes it really does go on the actual person, and you don't know until you actually throw them in the ringer after training. It's essentially the sink or swim time. And, when you get to that level of the sink or swim, don't feel like you have to just carry on. Don't feel like you just have to accept the bare minimum of caliber of person. There are people out there that are willing to give you 100%, which is all you want, 100%. But don't feel that you have to accept something because you're comfortable with it. Because they're hitting quota, they're getting by, they're doing fine, right? If that's the effort and mentality that you're going to have, you're going to fail.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And the last piece that I would add is that see if they're coachable. You could tell that by their work ethic, and you could tell by if this person maybe isn't succeeding, but they're constantly asking for help, and not in like an annoying way of like asking for help so that you do their job for them. More of asking for help of like, hey, I realize I'm not living up to this, or I'm trying this and I'm not hitting these KPIs. Like, what can I do? What can I learn? How do I do this? That's a person that's really worth pouring into.
100%.
All right. So everybody, that is our podcast for today. As always, thank you so much for joining us here on the 1%. Like, follow, share, subscribe, leave a comment making fun of Shane's face, and tell a friend or two. But as always, I'm your host, Vin.
And I'm Shane.
We'll see you.
Bye, guys.